Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate y'all coming out tonight and giving up whatever it is you're usually doing on a Monday night at this time, especially with as cold as it is outside. I haven't taken this jacket off since I put it on this morning, so if you don't mind, I'm going to keep it on during the presentation. Get all my gadgets going here. Today we are here to discuss the North Fifth Avenue meeting. Before we get into the presentation, I'd like to introduce myself as well as other city staff who are present. I'm Amy Beatty. I'm the Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Wilmington. I see some familiar faces in here, people that have worked with us before on committees or just showing a general interest. So again, thank you for being out here tonight and showing an interest in your neighborhood and pride in your neighborhood. We have a former city council member with us tonight, Paul Lawler. Thanks for coming out. We have Deputy City Manager Tom Moten, our Chief of Staff, Dennis Lacaria. We have Sally Thigpen, the Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation, Ron McMillan, our Superintendent for Parks, Landscaping, and Forestry. Dennis Felinkowitz is our, hopefully I didn't butcher that, I've known Dennis for years, traffic engineer, and Dave Cowell, our engineering department director, and our corporate affairs teams, Amy Willis, Lauren Edwards, Dylan, running this show back there in the back. I think I got everyone. Okay. Again, we're here tonight to overview the maintenance and upkeep of the median in North Fifth Avenue, discuss a little bit what the condition at present out there is like, talk about what we've done to date with the city's response to the condition of the median and communication, but we really want that to lead into a broader conversation about median maintenance and upkeep. And definitely we want to hear from you, so we invite your discussion and feedback. The Parks and Recreation crew are responsible for maintenance and upkeep of really all the public areas in the city of Wilmington. That varies a little bit from municipality to municipality throughout the state, but with Wilmington, the Parks and Rec crews do all of vegetative maintenance on all the streets inside the city, even the state-owned streets, and then all the parks, athletic facilities, alleys, buildings, grounds, etc. For Fifth Avenue, the standard for mowing and litter control is biweekly. Parks and Recreation has levels of standards of maintenance and upkeep that are adopted, and they're based on the National Recreation and Park Association level of standards that they recommend. They range from a 1 to a 4. A 1 would be something that sees daily or weekly attention. Good example of that is an athletic field where safety and playability are very important. So maintaining an outfield and an infield of a baseball field. Another example would be something like a gateway or the Riverwalk, where we have, it's our #1 tourist attraction. And then they go all the way down the scale to a number 4, which is our more natural areas that are maintained on a monthly or as needed basis. A good example of that is something like the Pine Ridge Nature Preserve. The frequency of meeting the standard can be affected, however, with staffing vacancies. Since COVID, we've struggled with that in our department, as well as equipment downtime or simply things like weather. But our standard for Fifth Avenue is every 2 weeks. That's the same on South Fifth Avenue, and the same with other roads in the downtown area, Market Street median, South 3rd Street median, etc. Tonight, we again are talking about North Fifth Avenue, but specifically the areas between Bladen Street and Hanover Street. These are a couple of photos of the condition right now. Over time, some residents have placed items in the median and have planted vegetation in the median. And we assume positive intent with this planting, that the neighbors wanted to beautify the areas in front of their homes. However, this can create safety hazards for city staff as well as residents and for property. So as an example with the picture here on the right, that can be very difficult to mow around, so it causes a challenge for our staff, but also can risk a mower or a weed eater popping, a smaller rock. It happens quite frequently that could, hit a pedestrian or could hit a car and cause property damage. The condition on the left-hand side with that vegetation, that creates a safety issue of a different kind in terms of affecting the sight lines from somebody traveling in their vehicle, especially when they're trying to negotiate a turn, and we don't want to risk pedestrian safety. The city's working really hard now in working together more in unison with other departments on different initiatives. A good example is a new initiative called Vision Zero. That's a multi-department effort with planning, engineering, and others with a key objective to eventually lower the number of pedestrian fatalities in Wilmington to zero. And so as we all try to work more closely together and efficiently as departments, this was a great example. Our police department noticed that this was affecting sight lines. So while our guys out on the crews have seen it for a while, it sort of recently was raised to a new urgency with input from other departments saying, hey, we probably need to do something about this. So once that urgency was heightened, the city crews notified neighbors directly adjacent to that area, again, the Hanover-Bladen area, of the intent to remove the items. And they did that by speaking to neighbors one-on-one in person, and also we put signs in the median notifying anybody who was driving up and down Fifth that that was going to be the intent. And our crews that go out and maintain these areas in neighborhoods oftentimes develop relationships with the neighbors because they're used to seeing them out there every 2 to 3 weeks. And so our staff on the ground, our maintenance crews did a great job of communicating with the neighbors one-on-one. I didn't do a great job. I should have formalized the communication, held a meeting such as this one a month ago, 2 months ago, instead of right now, and provided ways for people to get in touch with us with questions, email address, phone number, and to spark the dialogue that we hope to happen tonight. So we paused the action that we were going to take so that we could have that additional layer of public engagement and communication. And we would like to talk a little bit tonight about a path forward for people who do want to take an interest in their medians and have a project in mind where they want to try to beautify the area. And we're going to call it a pilot project, and we're going to base it on a policy that we already have for community gardens. And this is done in other areas. This is just one sample program, an example in Indiana, where citizens can work with the city on beautification projects in public areas. So what we're proposing is based on the community garden program. We will have a pilot project in the Fifth Avenue area or elsewhere in the city if there is a desire for other public spaces. We are asking that the applicant be a group and not an individual, and that's what we do with the community gardens. We do have an example of an existing partnership with someone who has a community garden on Dock Street near 11th Street. We do want it to be a group that has maybe some established resources rather than an individual in order to ensure ongoing effective maintenance of the area. I know I'm the one that mows the grass at my house. And so I know what a chore it is, especially in a rainy summer, just to keep up with my own yard, much less a public space. Groups will be responsible for the installation, maintenance, and meeting the safety standards that we're trying to set. Because again, that's really what this conversation for the city goes back to, is addressing what we perceived as a safety risk to the public. And there would be ongoing inspection and evaluation by the city in working with the groups. If the city notices, hey, you need to come out here and do something with this vegetation, we're the ones out there, watching through the windshields, and we can make that call. So here's the timeline we've established for this pilot program. Tonight, we're issuing an invitation for anybody interested in the pilot program, not just here in the room tonight. This meeting does have a virtual option, so for people who are watching or listening at home. In addition, you'll see in the last slide, we'll have this information on our website, and we'll have an email posted for people who want more information. We're asking people who are interested in participating in a pilot program to notify us by February 2nd. We realize it's the holidays. We're going to give people a little bit of time to decide if they want to do that. If we don't get any interest for Fifth Avenue, we will need to remove the items, again, in order to make it safe for our crews and folks who are traversing that area, either by car or pedestrians, to resume the maintenance and upkeep of that medium. By March 2nd, we'll notify people who are interested in the pilot program. We'll invite them to meet with us so that we can go over detailed information, answer detailed questions. And then new applications will be considered as time goes on. With that, here's where you can get more information. We also have a survey out, and it's on the city's website, asking for feedback on how we're doing with maintaining those medians and those public areas. And so we'll invite the residents to take that survey if they wish. With that, and I was probably standing right, talk about view lines, I was probably standing in yours the whole time, I apologize. But with that, let's start a discussion if there's any questions for myself or other city officials in the room. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on South Fifth Avenue? They've been tearing up the median. It looks like
Sorry to interrupt you. Do you mind speaking to the microphone just so the online people can hear your question? Thank you.
The question is, what's going on South Fifth Avenue, where all kinds of turf has been torn up, all kinds of shrubs have been put in, and trees, which we assume are not going to run into the power lines, but a whole lot's going on. What is that about?
Yes, ma'am. So that is a project that was a collaboration between the city's Public Works Department and Cape Fear Public Utility Authority. So the Utility Authority, we try to work together with them. We understand when their capital projects are coming up and vice versa, so that we don't inadvertently go out and pave a road and then 6 months later they're digging it up because they're needing to replace pipes underneath the road. So CPUA had a project, an extensive project to replace water and sewer pipes under Fifth Avenue. Right. So we took advantage of that to schedule a capital project that would pave the road, and also based on adopted plans, change the configuration of the road. Instead of 2 vehicular lanes north and south, it's reduced to 1 based on the level of traffic. Added a bike lane, and then since everything was being torn up, including the median, because the pipes are going under there, we took that as an opportunity to re-landscape. Right. And so there was a resolution adopted by City Council, I want to say 2011 or 2013-ish timeframe, in conjunction with feedback from residents of Old Wilmington, not to go back in there with trees because the overhead power lines. And so instead we did a landscape plan that was lower to the ground. And so, yeah, that was just complete. I believe there was actually a ribbon cutting planned for Wednesday of this week at 11 o'clock for people who want to go out there. So that was really, it looks like a landscape plan or a landscape project, but really 99% of the project was below ground. And then, we just took the opportunity to re-landscape after all that work was done. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I live on North Fifth, matter of fact, right at Ground Zero. And I had spoken to someone in Parks, maybe 6 months ago about the possibility of a pilot project. So I'm excited about seeing this. And what I'm wondering is I've also spoken to the woman who actually responsible for a lot of the planting in the section from Bladen to Brunswick. I'm from Brunswick going south, and not much has been done on that. It's pretty much a clean slate, which makes it a lot easier. There's not a lot of stuff there. And so I'm wondering, how do you see the mechanics of this happening? Obviously, there has to be support in the community, and I think there could well be support for it, particularly for the section that we live on, which nothing's been done to. So my question is twofold. On the section that's already been done, and you showed a photograph of that with a lot of bricks in there and stones, and the plantings may not always be suitable to how you envision it. Ours is a blank slate. Do you envision the neighborhood acquiring the plants? Would you acquire the plants? What would the partnership be entailed between Parks and us? And thirdly, I know trees are going to go in, and I heard from the Cape Fear Tree Alliance. I think they're going to do a lot of the planting.
Yes, sir.
And we went through the course and all that. And so I'm curious that the trees need to go in before you, it would seem to me, before you start planting any shrubs or perennial plants. So I'm wondering, how do you envision this occurring, assuming there was interest in the community to move forward?
I'll answer the last question first. The Alliance for Cape Fear Trees tree planting project, I believe, is going to happen within the next few months. I'm looking at my assistant director. January. Yeah. So that would come probably prior to, according to the timeline that we established for the pilot project. Those trees would go in first. In terms of how a project would look, the interested group would submit a proposal to the city, and city staff would sit down with that group, and using established city standards of the plantings that we use when we are doing our own capital project with landscaping, which includes a lot of native plants, drought-tolerant plantings, because there is not irrigation in these medians. We would sit down with them, go over a list of plants that we would use, and suggest those to the group that is applying, and we would come together to approve a plan together and make sure that it's something that we believe that a group would be able to maintain.
So there would be really two different plans, I sense. One from Brunswick going south to the bridge, because there's nothing on there. And then how do you envision dealing with the area that is already planted?
So we will need to remove what is there now, what was shown in the pictures,
Okay,
because
so you still
that
intend to
is
do that?
causing, it's causing in the opinion of our safety officials and traffic engineering staff, it's creating a hazard. So we would remove that. We would allow the residents to reclaim what they have put out there if they wish. And then if they were interested in putting something in lieu of that out there after it's removed, we'd say, hey, we'll work together on a plan for whatever group wants to adopt that block.
So any vegetation in place will go?
If it is considered to be violating the city's code ordinances and creating a safety hazard. Yes, ma'am. Valerie.
Thank you. How do you define a group? I mean, how do you define a group?
We define a group as something like something that is organized, that has a nonprofit status, or a church, say, a homeowners association. I know that wouldn't apply to Fifth Avenue, but other places in the city it might. A garden club, a church. And the city already has established relationships with some groups where if a person wants to do something but they don't have a group in mind that they're affiliated with, we can try and put you in touch with somebody that we already work with.
So with that in mind, if you have an ongoing relationship established with a large garden club or some other group, there's nothing to prohibit them from adopting other areas and working with the neighbors.
No.
So that's nice.
Yes. We got the Oprah.
Thank you. Is there any funding attached to this project?
There is not.
And who is responsible for the more meticulous maintenance that might be required? Would that be the city? So weeding, things like that, not just mowing. Is that the adopting group?
That is the group, yes. So again, it's based on our current community garden program policy. So if a group is interested in doing something above the level of standard that the city is resourced to do, then yes, that would be the responsibility of the group to maintain.
And for sections that haven't or won't be adopted, what's the plan?
Just continue to, so the condition of North Fifth Avenue is turf and trees. So we would continue with that.
Okay.
Follow up on her point. So if a group is, however the group is formed, and I'm assuming the group is going to have a large neighborhood component, there's a lot of shrubs that would go in. A lot of planting would go in there. So I guess I'm curious, would you expect the group to cover the full cost of the plantings?
Yes, sir. So that sort of goes back to my statement a minute ago that our department has a finite amount of resources with which to maintain all the public areas in the city. And the current condition of Fifth Avenue, North Fifth Avenue, turf and trees is what we're resourced to maintain right now. So if the public or a particular group is interested in something more elevated than that, then yes, we would need the cooperation of the public to provide that enhanced level of care.
But would it be possible, say, for this group to work with parks and maybe work with some of the suppliers of plants to maybe work out some sort of arrangement, getting wholesale prices or something? Because it could be, because I've seen what you've done on and are doing on South Fifth, and it's nice, but you put a lot of plants are going in.
Right, and with that, the city, our department requested, and during our budget development last year, an enhancement to have a landscape contractor maintain that new landscape on Fifth Avenue, because we're not resourced to do it right now. But one of the beautiful things about a group needing to be the applicant of a pilot project is that a group is oftentimes eligible for grants. So there's lots of foundations throughout the city that provide small dollar grants, you know, at $5,000 level or so forth, and a group could apply for a grant to pay for the plantings.
So, theoretically, if this group forms, it could work with parks to identify a funding source and together maybe make an application.
We could help with what
But
we know is out there. So we have a current administrative procedure in the Parks and Recreation Department. If an outside group wants to apply for a grant to do something on city property, we have a process for them to go through where we kind of vet that and look it over and work together to.
But if the group becomes an official pilot, if it's approved, I would think that would give it some leverage in acquiring some small amounts of funds for acquisition of plant materials.
I mean, it's just one avenue to do it.
Yeah.
You know, some groups may have their own private funding source within their group. Others may need the help of a grant award, and we're certainly happy to provide any information that we're aware of that would be eligible. getting his steps in.
Thank you. So on South Fifth, is this also available, or is what has been done the extent of what is authorized?
What has been done on South Fifth is the extent, and it's pretty detailed, so I don't know if that would be the, a priority of a group, since that is a brand new landscape that's pretty comprehensive.
And there's a landscape contractor that's been engaged to take care of that.
Well, the project comes with a warranty by the contractor who put it in. It's probably at least an 18-month warranty. So fortunately, the city doesn't have to worry about budgeting for that in this coming year. But once that warranty expires, then we will have to contract with a landscape company.
Okay, and then for North Fifth, is hardscape also a possibility for folks, or is this really just planting?
I think hardscape, we would entertain that. I think it depends on what it looks like, and as long as it, doesn't again create a safety hazard, then it's something that we will take a look at.
Okay, thank you.
Would the city, if there's a group doing something with the medians, would the city no longer do any mowing, or would it be expected that neighbors are going to get out there and mow the median?
We'll still mow the median.
You'll still mow.
Yes.
Okay.
So the pilot program is going to be based on the community garden program guidelines. I've not read those guidelines. Are they available through your website?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Lawler.
Thank you, Amy. You mentioned there was one agreement already at, I think, Dock and 11th.
For community garden.
Yeah, could you talk a little bit about how that agreement is structured? Because if that's a model, maybe if we had a little better, something to grasp at is just how this might work out, and just how that plays out.
Sure.
Like what are the key elements that get into this?
So again, the key components are really the burden of responsibility is on the group. And again, I'll go back to, because the city is resourced to what it is right now, and if we South Fifth Avenue, for example, if the city had to take care of that new landscaping with existing resources, then that means that another area of the city, we're not going to meet our target for service levels, because we have that finite amount of resources, which you're very familiar with. So the burden is on the group, but we would work together to identify landscape designs that are as maintenance-free as possible, something that can be easily maintained by hand tools. We won't want to send somebody out on a median having to use large pieces of equipment where, now we've created a different safety problem. So we would work together with them to identify what we think would be manageable for a group. And then there's a written agreement. They take responsibility for the things that they say that they're going to do to maintain it, and the city, evaluates it. If it becomes overgrown and it becomes unsightly for the neighbors, the city will have that conversation with the group, and if it continues that way, then it would revert back to the city and it would be removed. But the one agreement that we have has been working beautifully. If you drive up Dock Street, you'll see it. It's been a good example.
I guess the rotary wheel at Greenfield Lake is probably another model for this. The Rotary in the 66 built a rotary wheel out there. It looks like the rotary symbol. And the city agreed that they will mow the grass in there. But if we want to have plants and vegetation and all sorts of cool stuff in there, that's on the Rotary Club to
That is a perfect
handle.
working example. Yep. And the Rotary Club pays a landscape contractor to come out and maintain that enhanced landscape that they put in. And they have designs for even more.
Oh, yeah.
You're well aware.
Hi, I'm Lloyd Singleton. I'm honored to live on North Fifth. In fact, I picked the area. I bought the house 2 years ago because of the charm and the obvious community spirit for something like a median garden, just to say that. But I retired in April as director of the Arboretum and have a lot of landscape maintenance experience, so I understand your woes, and I get it. I also am honored to serve as a director for the board of the Alliance for Cape Fear Trees, and our city street tree planting is scheduled for January 10th, but as of now, it does not include any trees on the medians on North Fifth, according to the spreadsheet I just got. So that is probably a point we can talk about, and I think the Alliance may very well be interested in being one of these pilot projects. So I can't speak for them for sure, but.
Well, we didn't want to mention you without asking you first, but we thought you'd be a good partner too.
Yeah, thanks.
Anything else?
I was just going to ask if you knew how many trees are going to be planted that day, because there's 100 total in North Wilmington going in, so that's a lot of trees.
Do you have that, Lloyd?
Well, he's saying none, so that would certainly be something.
I thought you were asking what their total tree
Well,
count
yeah,
is.
the total is 100 is what they're advertising for, so they need lots of volunteers, I'm sure. I'm kind of curious about, I mean, there's a lot of people that deal with city property between the sidewalk and the street, and there's a lot of nice gardens, also a lot that are out of control. Is that going to be part of the purview as the city goes forward to start looking at all of those sidewalk to road gardens that are out there and try to control if they're a problem?
Parks and Recreation staff is not actively going out and trying to find every instance in the city where people have planted in the city right of way. Number one, Ron's probably going, no, we don't have time to do that. But secondly, if something isn't creating an issue that is a safety hazard, or something isn't creating a violation of code, I mean, the city, we need to hold ourselves to the same standard as we're holding others. So we can't be in violation of our own code. So we would look at things like that before we would take any action in other areas of the right-of-way where people have encroached.
Okay, thank you.
I did just want to mention, it looks like we have a couple of people who have joined us online, so I don't have any questions at this point, but if anyone would like to drop them in, please use the Q&A function at the top of the meeting, and I'm happy to read them to Amy, but at this point we don't have any online questions.
And I guess just a reminder to everyone that they can get more information with these methods right here and take the survey.
One other question, because this has been an issue in the past and it's very important. Hard permanent structures would not be allowed. Is that fair to say?
I mean, on a state-owned road like South 3rd Street is still NCDOT, so that would not be, DOT wouldn't go for that. I think that we would take things on a case-by-case basis. I think one of the criteria that we're going to provide on this pilot program is that we would allow for these gardens on a local road with a speed limit of 25 miles an hour max, just to help ensure people's safety. So, if somebody wants to put some pavers in a median that we think has the width to support it and not be a danger to vehicles, certainly I would look to city staff experts like our traffic engineering, folks who, are risk management, et cetera, to make sure that we're not doing anything, again, to create an unsafe situation. But right now, what we're planning on doing is just taking individual proposals and working together to be able to approve them.
Let me ask my question a different way. There was on 8th near Princess, there's a flower shop in the corner there. And on 8th, somebody built a structure in this between the sidewalk and the curb, and they were going to put all their trash cans out there. And the city explained to them that that could not be, because if they put a structure there, of course everybody else and their brother would put a structure there, and that would really, I think, be detrimental to the look of the neighborhood. And so I'm just sort of, I don't want to do anything, I would be cautioned against anything that would give precedent for people to start building structures in what should be a very open area. And of course then putting the plants there, which I like, kind of moves in that, different direction there. So just things to keep in mind.
That's a good, valid point. Thank you. Well, again, thank you for the interest. Thanks for coming out tonight. Stay warm on the way home. And feel free to contact me, Sally, or other city staff here for any follow-up questions. And again, use the information on the slide. Thank you.